Hi everyone, Sandy here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I have another wedding tutorial for you. This is an 8x8 wedding album using Heartfelt Creations Insta-Album and Country Craft Creations exclusive paper collection. Here Comes the Bride in the 8x8 size. So I do have a tutorial on how I patterned this and a walkthrough at the end of this video. So let's get started. For this 8x8 Heartfelt Insta-Album, I'm going to keep it pretty simple. I'm going to be using black artisan cardstock for mats and extra flaps that I might add in. I'm using the 8x8 Here Comes the Bride paper collection. I have one collection here to use. Of course, I'll use my adhesives, score tape, if needed, score tape sheets, glue, art glitter glue. And also I'll be using, instead of magnets in this one, I will also be using ribbon ties, so seam binding ribbon in any color that you want to use in your album. I haven't decided on my color yet, but anyway, that's what I'm going to be doing with this little 8x8 album. I'm going to make a quick little wedding or Mother of the Bride album, so stay tuned for the tutorial. For the outside of this album, 8x8 Insta-Album by Heartfelt Creations, I'm using the 8x8 papers, which makes it really quick and easy to create this album, I think. I've decided to go with more leaning toward Mother of the Bride album, so I'm going to be using this print from the collection on the front with the brides. So you'll see here on the album, and because I am not using magnets, I'm going to ignore the markings for magnets. If you want to use the magnets, you can do that. To go through all the thicknesses of this album, you would need the ones from Heartfelt Creations, or you can use the basic gray. If you put the magnet where it like indicates on one flap, and then just put your other magnet the opposite side, not through all the thicknesses of the album itself, because it might not hold. But I'm going to be using all ribbon ties with seam binding ribbon, and for this outside cover I decided to go with this really pretty white dotted sheer from Country Craft Creations. If it's still available in the store, I will post a link to that in my description below. But anyway, if you will look at your album, you will notice it says 8x8. That means to cover this section, all you need to do is glue on an 8x8 piece like that. And for this flap here, you need a 3x3, and I'm going to use the back side of the brides. I'm going to use the stripe, 3x3. The back, the side spines are 1.5x8, and of course the back is another 8x8. So I'm going to use the stripe back there. Okay, so that is what I'm doing. I'm going to glue these on real quick. Before you do that, you need to put your ribbon where you want it, and I'm just simply going to take score tape for that. Take my ribbon. I'm going to turn the album over, and I'm going to place it in the center. I'm going to get it halfway mark here, right here. I'm going to place it in the center of my book. I'm just eyeballing it. It's beautiful tape. Then I'm going to take ribbon, I'm going to take my score tape. This is the 3/8 inch, whatever size you have. And I'm going to tape it on each end, right there. And then probably in the middle. Make sure, and don't put it all the way to the edge, because you want to make sure the tape is not showing when you put your paper down. Whoops. I'll put some here to secure it. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead off camera, so I'm not being repetitive with the gluing. I'm going to glue these sections, the papers down on these sections, and then I'll come back and show you what I'm doing on the rest of it on the inside. So make sure you burnish these down before you glue your paper here on the back, and then also take the tape backings off. Okay, so I have all the papers glued onto the outside cover of the album. So the ribbon is attached underneath the back paper. Got the spines here, each side, and then the front cover and this section. So then when I open it up, I've already put the pattern paper here on what you can see from right here. And I'm going to give you those measurements real quick. So you can see the papers. I use this pattern here with the vintage images, and then I use the champagne glasses and the back of the champagne glass print. So this section here is an 8x8, so I didn't have to cut the paper, so just glue that on. This section here, you're going to want two that are 6 wide by 8 tall. So you got one here, and then I have one here. So I haven't done the inside back yet. So this is where we're at right here. We've got this. This is the back side. Then you need two that are 1.5 wide by 8 tall, and then you need one that is 3 wide by 8, which is the same as this one on the front. So that's glued here. So when you open up, this is what you see, the next section. So then I'm going to focus on the inside here. Before I do that, we're going to need to add our ribbon closure for this. I want this to have a ribbon closure, so I am going to be using the ivory seam binding ribbon. So let me get some of that. For my tie closure, I cut 2 pieces of seam binding ribbon in the ivory, about 18 inches each, 18 to 20 inches. I like plenty of room to tie. So I want this to be held down by ribbon, but I'm going to open this up, and this is going to go right here, these ribbons on the back side of this section. And you want to do it before you add your patterned paper, of course. So I'm going to take 2 pieces of score tape, and I'm just going to lay the ribbon right here, kind of center it, and put my tape about 1/4 of an inch so from the bottom. So I don't want the tape to be showing. I put my patterned paper down, burnish that down really good. Take your other piece, and we're going to bring it across. Same thing. Put that tape down. So it's on this back side of all this section here. So you fold this up, and then you can either tie it this way. Of course, that won't work. We're going to put this one on the top, and then we tie our ribbon right here on the front. So I'm just checking to see how much tails I've got left. I like to have plenty to tie a pretty bow. Oops, that's too big a loop. Okay, about like that. Okay, and then I'm going to tie these in a knot. I like to tie them in a knot to keep them from fraying. Bring this up about right there, and then I'm going to trim that off at an angle. And we'll do the other side the same way. And just like that. Okay, so now we have the ribbon on. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut my pattern paper for the inside of this section, and I will glue those down. I don't think I'll need any other trim. Remember, I'm not using the magnet, so I'm ignoring the circles that tell you where to put a magnet. I don't think we need anything holding this down. This seems to lay fine right there. So all we need to do is cut our pattern paper. And so remember, this is the measurement. So it's 4 tall by 8 wide, 6 wide by 8 tall. So they kind of give you some mixed directional here, but I will give it to you the way it needs to be cut. So like here we need 2 6s by 8 and another 6 by 8 over here. So I will write that all down in my notes, and we'll get that all cut out, and I'll show you what I've put in this section of my album. I've cut my pattern papers that go on the inside of this left section here, and we added the ribbon. So this is the ribbon tie. So this is what keeps this left section contained. So I'm ready to, I've already glued in my papers, and I'm going to go over those with you so that you know what I've done. So we did this with this first part here. So this one, of course, is a 6x8. And when you open it up, here on the left, we have a 6x8 with the wedding cakes. Then we're going to open this back, and I have another 6x8 with the wedding cakes. This glued down over the ribbon that we had already attached. So here on the front, I have this piece with the wedding shoes. This one is 8 wide by 4 tall. And then you flip it down. And because I am going to be running out of pattern paper, I went ahead and pieced this. Now, I did write down that it is 8 wide by 4 tall, but actually what I've done is 8 wide. And that one I got off a little bit right there. Probably going to have to take a knife and cut some of that. But anyway, it's just about 1 7/8 and 2. So under 2 inches, so you need 2 pieces of that. So I did piece that. This is an 8x8, and then I put another 8x8 on the inside, and this is the marriage certificate with the image, this beautiful. So and then I decided that you wanted to know that there is something else under there, so I did a thumb notch after I put the pattern paper on with my 1-inch circle punch. And then this lifts up, and of course this is 8x8. Now I will come back later with scraps and probably do strips inside here. And then this flips open. Make sure we're showing you that. So this is 6x8. So I use the image with the bride and groom here. And then I use these papers here. This is 6x6. And you need 2 of those. But the one on the inside, to stretch my paper, I use black cardstock, so for photos, and you'll see a lot more of that in the other section. This is a 6x8. Flip it down. We have the black cardstock, 6x8, and then 6x8 here pattern paper inside there. So that all folds up. So that is the inside of this left section. So now we're ready. I'm ready to start cutting the pattern papers, and I am going to be using more black cardstock, and I think I'm going to be using some of the gold pearl shimmer cardstock to stretch my pattern paper. What it is, let me show you. I did use this. The 8x8 comes with 3 of these. It's marriage certificate with the image, and then marriage certificate on the back. And I only want 1. Now you can cut off and use border strips if you want, but I only wanted 1 marriage certificate in the album. So I have 2 sheets that I'm not using, so I'm supplementing with some cardstock instead. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my papers, and again I'll tell you what I've done. I'm going to go ahead and glue them in. I think we will need, I will share with you where I put a ribbon, because I'm pretty sure I will be adding a ribbon into this one, because otherwise it's going to kind of flop around. So I just need to decide. I've already got my papers in there with temporary adhesive on it, so I will show you what I'm going to do with that in just a bit. I've cut off 2 pieces of the ribbon, about 18 inches, 18 to 20 inches, because I want to make sure I have plenty to tie. And remember, I have these inside the papers cut, but I just have them stuck down with temporary paper, adhesive. So I'll be gluing them down permanently. Now, what I've determined is I want to tie this completely. This will stay down, should stay down pretty good. I want this one tied in and this one tied in. I want these tied in together. So I think, oops, see there's my temporary moving. I think I'm going to flip this open. I'm going to take this one off here, and this one off here at the bottom. And I'm going to get my seam binding ribbon, and I'm going to put a piece of ribbon. This is yeah, okay, I'm going to put one here in the center of this inner flap here, and then I'm going to put one on this top flap. I think that's going to work. Before I glue everything down, I'll double check. So just kind of line this up across from the other one like this. It's not holding this flap down. What this is going to do, this is going to go back on here. And this one will go here. Now then, when this folds up and this folds down, this will tie this center section in. Making sure I have plenty of ribbon. And this is making this without any magnets, so that works there. And then I'm going to tie a knot in the bottom and trim this off. About like that. And the last one. So that's all the closures I'm going to have as far as ribbon closures here in my book. And so I'm going to go ahead off camera, glue all these papers down, and then I'll show you finishing up the inside of the album, and then we'll do the outside of the album cover, decorate that. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done real quick for you. I have all my papers in this right, what I call the right section, all attached down. So we just undo the ribbon. Of course, we already put this one on before I gave you the measurements, and again, it's 8 by 8. So when this flips back, I'm going to show you a couple of things you're going to need to do if you want to do it that way. What I did was here, this is a piece that's cut at, you need just one piece that is 8 tall, and I believe that's 2 wide. I'm looking to see on my notes where I put it. So, but it is 8 by 2 wide. And what I have decided to do is I have put in a piece of black cardstock that's 8 inches by 4.5. And I am going to make this a pocket instead of a flap. So I'm going to take my glue, and I've marked it here, create pocket, glue, and glue. So you put glue here on this edge and this edge. And then we're going to close it up, and we're going to burnish it down. Then I'm going to use a couple of clips to hold them down and make sure the glue sets on this particular cardstock here. So let me get that. I have to get those clipped on. So we let this pocket dry. Now we have a pocket here to insert tags, photos, whatever we want to. So on the cutting guide, you will see pattern paper for this inside section. There is 2 that you cut that are 2 inches wide by 8 inches tall. And then I glued this shut to make the pocket. So this is one here, and then we have one here the same size, but I probably put that in separate down below a little further. Yeah, one that is 2 wide by 8 tall. So this is your black cardstock that's 4.5 wide by 8 tall, and your 2 inch wide by 8 inch tall pattern paper, and I did glue the pocket shut. So there is one other place where I do a pocket. Okay, so here on the inside. So we have a pattern paper. We have one that is 6 inches wide by 8 tall. Use the stripe right there. And then the next one is, you need 2 that are 8 inches wide by 5. I put that here and on the inside. And then we need one that is 8 inches wide by 3. And I put that on the bottom, and then I did a piecing here with black that is 8 inches wide by an inch. So let me correct that on my notes. I put 7/8, but it's actually an inch tall. Okay, so we have that. And you can add trim or something here probably later. When this flips down, you'll see this is not finished, because in here, and it doesn't have to be this big, but I did put a gold piece that's 8 inches wide by 6 1/4 tall. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make this flap a pocket. So I put glue, and create a pocket. So take your glue, and this is optional. If you want to pattern the whole thing, you can. But I wanted some extra pockets in here. So put glue along the 2 ends. And then we're going to bring that up, and then we're going to seal that up, and that will create this pocket here on the inside. I'm going to burnish that down. Make sure it sticks. Okay. So there's a pocket. So this closes down like that. Then we slide on over. Let's open this one here. So here on the inside, let's do that one last. This is the one I did next. Then here I cut 3 that are 8 by 8. So I have it in a stripe. I have it here in this section and here in this section. So there's 3 of those. And then you're going to cut black, one that's 8 wide by 6 tall for this flap. And pattern paper here, one that's 8 wide by 6 tall. When you open these up, I use black in the same size, black that is 8 wide, 6 tall. And we need a gold that is 8 wide and 6 tall. And this flips down. We have one down here. And then I cut mine a little short, so I fussy cut out some of the border paper and put that here. And then we need another black 8 wide by 6 tall. This is your 8 by 8 and 8 by 8 in here. So I think that's got it all covered. Just use your rulers if you get a little confused about what goes where, and pattern it the way you want to. So all this closes up. Oops. We're going to bring this in like that, and then we tie this closed. So that is all the pattern paper on this 8 by 8 album with no magnets. We're just using the ribbon closure tie. And I'm going to go through and see if there's any places I want to make cardstock photo mats or flaps, and see what else we could add in there before we finish up the decorating. So I'm going to check all that out, and I'll come back and show you what I've done. All the pattern papers are cut and attached inside the album, and I did off camera add in some tags and photo mats into the pockets, and I will show you those in just a bit. First, I'm going to finish off the front here, and I want to show you what I'm going to do, because I originally said I wasn't using any magnets, which I didn't. But as you can see, when this is pulled, even though I pulled it as tight as I can, this has a little gap. Now that may not bother you, that's okay, you know. But I'm thinking I'm going to try to add a magnet in with my decorative flowers and see if I can make that attach down. So here's my plan. So this is a fix it after the fact. So I can't put a magnet in here because I've already got my pattern paper and everything on. So what I'm going to do is I have 2 pieces that are 3 by 2.5, and I'm going to, one for the back side and one for the front, and I'm going to trying to think how I could make magnets fit here. I'm going to have to make something. Okay, so I may have to cut one of these down. So I'm just just thinking off the top of my head. So I have some pretty flowers that I pulled from my stash that I'm going to collage onto this piece here. So if I need to cut it down some, I will. I'm going to put a magnet underneath there. And I'm just checking to see what magnets. I've got some really, really strong ones here. These are not basic gray. They're just real strong magnets. So I'm thinking I may actually use something like that. So these are something that's in my stash. I'm going to, so I want this where I can attach it. I'm going to trim this down some. I'm going to make it about 2.5 inch one way and 1.5 the other, because I don't want it really big. So I'm going to put some glue down right here for the magnet. So these magnets have to have glue. They don't have any adhesive. Put that on right there and just let that dry. So this flower is going to go over that. And then I'm thinking I'm going to put one of these big ones in here. Okay, so I'm going to glue this one onto the side here with its leaves. So I'm just making a flower arrangement on the piece that I'm adding on, that I've got the magnet on. So I'm just going to build this up, and this one's going to go over the magnet like that. Turn it this way some. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry. And then I'm going to be working on the other side here. The magnet's going to have to be under this piece here. So we're going to have to try to cover that up with something. So I took another little scrap of paper. This one's about 1 inch by 2.5. And I've glued the other magnet on there. I made sure that they matched up. So I just glued that on. This may not work. We're going to see. So I'm thinking of trying to make sure this flower is glued on really good to the leaves. I think that's where that other magnet's going to have to hit. Put glue on this. And I'm going to attach this right there on top of that magnet. Let's cover up that paper. Okay. Now I'm going to put these other flowers here on this piece and see if I can kind of cover everything up. Trim this down a little bit more with my scissors. Just put a good amount of glue right there. Okay, with that one. This right here, I've got to trim off some of the paper here. It's showing. There we go. Okay. And let's see. I'll glue that one in there. Okay, so I'm just building up on these 2 pieces of paper with the magnets in there, and I'm going to let these dry. Getting glue everywhere. There we go. Some glue right there on that flower. Okay. I'll let those dry, and then I will put them on the album. So be back in a little bit after everything gets dry. Okay, so these guys are drying up, I think. Now then, I'm going to have to see how I'm going to position this to make it work. So I think, whoops, this magnet's really strong. I need to let this one dry a little bit more, add a little more glue to this guy. I have to use some, I wonder if I have to use some glossy accents or something. Anyway, okay, so let that dry. So I'm thinking, where's the magnet? It's right there behind that. If I put this here, okay, I'm going to go for it, guys. I'm going to go for it on this one. Quite a bit of glue here on the back of this. This is my best idea on how to hide the magnets. So now I can press these down and let them dry really good. So I'm going to let this dry. This is where the, okay, it's going to come there. And then that's going to grab it right there. So I'll let this dry first. Okay, so let's pause for just a bit and let some drying happen. Okay, so I did curve cut a little bit here so you don't see as much on the back. I'm getting ready to glue this piece onto the flap so I can see where the magnet is. And that's what I want to be able to extend over. So I'm going to put glue on this piece here. And this is what's going to stick over. This is a little tricky here. We've got to make sure the magnet attaches where it's supposed to. And then the paper here connects onto the flap. So I'm going to pull that up now and make sure everything is attaching where I want it to. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry too for a bit and see how this is going to work. Okay, and let that dry. Okay, so everything's dry and I've got it in place. Yay! And I love how it turned out. So while it was drying, I did from the cover sheet cut this little piece because I am just down to bare scraps on this collection, this 8x8 collection. So I did make this with the Heartfelt Creations 8x8 Insta-Album and one of the Here Comes the Bride 8x8 collections. So anyway, I cut this little piece out and glued it here on the back to finish this up. So this just comes over and grabs like that. And of course you pull it with this. So that's the decoration, makes it really pretty. And this ties up nice and neat for more closure ability, and because we got to have a pretty ribbon on our wedding album. So that's the finished album right there. That's it. So I'm going to do a quick walkthrough for you and show you what it looks like on the inside now. Okay, so here it is, the finished showcase walkthrough of this album. Love how it turned out with this. So as you see on the back, it's all plain with the stripe, the sides. And then we untie this, of course, and then we lift it open, and our flower piece, now I'm going to have to glue a little bit more right there, I think. Let it dry a little more. flower piece opens up for the magnets. So we do have one magnet set, and it's a really large magnet that I had in my stash. I think the large basic gray would work fine. So when this opens up here, we have it looking like this. We have the ribbons that holding the insides closed. And this one, we'll do this one first. Now we untie this. Now I will say that I had made an element, drop-in element and glued it in, and then I realized that this is the part that came over, and that just wouldn't work. So I took it off. So it did tear a little spot here. So I covered this with some of the gold shimmer paper, and I like how that turned out. So it's a big place where you could put photos if you wanted to, but just kind of brings this all together. So when you have a goof up, don't worry about it, just cover it up. So here I didn't attach any of the mats, and this I've left plain here. I didn't attach any photo mats because it needs to be customized for the photos for whatever wedding this is for. So this opens up this way. So this is the same here. You can put photo here, drop this down. We have the notch here. Now this is where I have a lot of photos. I added a belly band. Now the photo mats, sizes of the photo mats and the belly band, this of course is 8 inches wide by looks like 1.5. So this is not in the cutting guide, the photo mats or anything like that, because I went to my scraps from other projects and just cut out a bunch of different photo mat sizes. This one is a booklet, and it has no pattern paper because I was out of pattern paper. But this is perfect for 5x7 photos. So you put one here, 2 on the inside and 1 on the back. I did round the corner. So this large piece here was, my ruler is so dirty, was looks like 11-inch. And then I scored it in half, and it is by 7.5. So finished, folded up, it is 5.5 by 7.5 for a 5x7 photo. So those just all tuck in there for now. So that's the storage place where you can hold them. And then this flips to the right. So we have places here. We have this flipping up. So like as you see, I didn't add any decorating. I just left everything ready for photo mats. So I'll close this down, and then we bring it around, and then we tie this back up. So that's the left side. And then here in this section, we untie this. So there is no magnets on the inside. So we untie this. This flips open. And here I made this flap into a pocket. And then I added these photo tags. These were cut from the Heartfelt Creations tag die that you can order from Country Craft Creations. I put a little strip of the pattern paper on for a belly band, and then tucked a photo mat under there. And so both of these come out of this pocket, just like that. Okay, and then this flips open. So we've got lots of places for photos. This flips up. We have a pocket here. I used a strip of the pattern paper to finish off this section here. So there's lots of tags in here. This is from the pattern paper. I just folded it, made it into a booklet like that. And then this one too, one of the 8x8 of the certificate, I folded it in half with this image on the front. So that just tucks in back there at the back like that. And lots of photo mats in different sizes. So that closes up. Then over here I did a belly band. This one is 2 inches wide, black cardstock strip of paper. Of course, it's 8 inches tall. And then so I just tucked photo mats in there under the belly band. This opens up. This opens here. So I left all this, just the pattern paper and the cardstock. This one here, I just tied a ribbon on it for decorative. Well, no, it's a booklet, so I can't remember what I did. You untie this, and then this opens back for a mat, photo mat here, booklet. So this one, I don't think I give it to you in the description in the cutting guide, but it is a 10-inch scored in half, and it is 5 inches tall. So it ends up being a 5x5 booklet in here that you can tie shut with the the ribbon. Couldn't even remember what I did on this one. Okay, so we tie that one closed. So of course you put a photo here on the front, and then this flips open, and this flips down, and then we have this down in here. So we have all this area you can't hardly see in this. So this is a great, it really was quick to put together with the 8x8 pad or collection of the Here Comes the Bride and the 8x8 Heartfelt Creations Insta-Album, which I will link in the description below so that you can find both of these and you can create a really quick wedding album with this. So this folds this away, and then we have, whoops, this one's got to go here. This one folds down, and then we tie it closed. It's kind of like a puzzle. Okay, so that is the finished 8x8 wedding album, which of course I also have the 12x12 in the Heartfelt Creations Insta-Album. So if you need a bigger album, check that one out here on my channel. And that's the album finished. I love the closure, the way it turned out. So this ties. So I want to thank you so much for following along with this tutorial. As always, please subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell for notifications. Click like. I would appreciate that so much. And check out countrycraftcreations.com for your scrapbooking supplies. And have an awesome day and have fun creating. Thanks again. Bye-bye.